You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast as we move on to Group B of our Champions Trophy preview. We haven't quite, just for people who are listening and wondering what we might be doing to cover the trophy, we haven't actually quite decided what we'll do. We'll probably do a couple of shows a week. I imagine one on a Sunday evening. That tends to be when there's been a good game. And then one midweek. Maybe we'll try and do one after the first game, and perhaps we'll throw in some predictions. In there at some point as well. This like the team preview is going to take us an hour and 20 minutes to get through, so probably don't want to stick predictions on the end of that. That's the gold content, isn't it? Which player will drop the most catches, or I don't know, like, whatever else. Who's the biggest flop in this tournament?
It's always a fun show. It's always a fun show.
Yeah,
it was like a live show just before the tournament kicks off.
Well, we can do it after the first game. So after Pakistan have been eliminated, we can declare them flop of the tournament.
Who's the biggest flop? Well, that'll be Pakistan.
Should we start with Group B? And we should start, I think, with England.
Sounds good.
The land of our birth, the land of our forebears,
The land of hope,
proud Englishmen, the land of St George, as well as quite a few other lands. Land of hope and glory, the land of other things.
Ambrosia.
Ambrosia. The Chilterns.
Bakewell tarts. Pork pie.
Bakewell tarts. Melton Mowbray pork pies. Bangers and mash.
I had that for tea.
Did you? Nice. Tower Bridge. Tower of London.
I walked over that on
Big
Friday
Ben's
night.
Tower. St Stephen's Tower.
I work near Big Ben.
Bloody hell. This is unbelievable.
The patriotism that is coming through here. England, they're represented by a cricket team, coached by a New Zealander, captained by Jos Buttler, who is English, and then some other men also play for them. They're playing in like a blue kit, and if you know World War One well, you'll be aware of the Dazzle ship, and it's got that kind of design on it. So if there are any U-boat captains looking to torpedo this team,
You're shit out of luck.
that's one bullet dodged. That is one bullet dodged, literally, in the case of any rogue submarine captains. We've seen a lot of England, obviously as England fans, and doing a podcast in English for an audience predominantly made up of other English people. We do follow this team quite closely, and it's probably fair to say they've been quite bad at this format for quite a long time. They don't seem to really care. They actually sometimes tell you they don't really care. They were bad at the World Cup. They've been bad since the World Cup. They've brought in a new coach. He seems to maybe have even made them worse. It's pretty miserable, but they do have, and it has to be said here, they do actually have on paper some theoretically good players. Like Jos Buttler, theoretically a good player. Ben Duckett, he's great for a 45. Averages 45. He gets it every game, like clockwork. Joe Root, he used to be really good at this. Really, really good. Now he isn't, but he did used to be really good. So maybe that will happen again. Harry Brook, he's knocking about. Let's face it, he hasn't done anything, but there's potential there, isn't there? There is potential.
In ODI cricket, in ODI cricket, it's not. It's not bad.
I know. He has a body of work in Test cricket, but you'd be hard. It would be a stretch, I think, to argue that Harry Brook was good at ODI cricket based on what we've seen so far. And on the bowling side, they've got Jofra Archer, Adil Rashid, and some other men who will bowl.
That's a bit of Mark Wood, Mahmood. They're pretty good.
Okay, you're talking them up. I'm going with this team a pretty bad angle. So this is good. We're going to debate.
There has to be something, right?
Okay.
Brendan McCullum's not a complete moron, and we've been criticising the England team the last few shows because they've had a plan where they're fully practicing how they're going to play in the Champions Trophy. So, Jack, I mean, are we going to give them any credit whatsoever for that, or are we going to be just like, nope, they're idiots?
Well, look. Ben Duckett did quite rightly point out that it doesn't matter what you do in the warm-ups if you win Champions Trophy. Now, the that he is right. He is absolutely right. We will completely forget what happened between the World Cup and now if England do somehow win the Champions Trophy. The problem is if you say that out loud, then you're gonna be judged to some quite high standards. If you just turn up and try and play good cricket and you think about what you're doing, you don't make stupid decisions, and you're a functional. If you play more like New Zealand, game in, game out, then frankly, there's kind of a lower bar that you're judged to. If you show that you can compete with India, maybe you lose that series 2-1, or maybe the games are just closer and you lose 3-0. And then you get knocked out in the semi-finals of the Champions Trophy. Probably people say, not great, but like they did try. They were beaten by some better teams. If you say, we don't care about winning some of these games, we're only interested in winning the trophy, and then you go out in the semi-finals, which might be the best case scenario for this England team, to be honest, you look like fools, and everyone's going to pile in and call you a bunch of morons. And that's completely fair. And that's kind of like, where this England team are at. Like there's, as you correctly point out, Ross, there's some talented players there. There's some big name players there. Frankly, though, they haven't done shit for a long time.
It's unwarranted
in this
hubris
format.
is what it is.
Massively so, Max. Yeah, like if you just won every tournament you turned up to, sure, you could say we don't give a shit about bilaterals. Or
bearing in mind how bad they were in the one-day World Cup,
but. This is a bad team. I mean, it's been a bad team since probably 2020, 2021. 4 years of quite poor cricket.
Since they won the ODI World Cup and stopped caring.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying here. I'm saying they're probably not that good. Ross, what do you think? Yeah, I'm saying this team semi-finals best case. Ross, why are they going to win the tournament? You can take that angle.
I think there's people, if they're going to win the tournament, people have to have some of the best moments of their career, and I'm just not sure they're up to it. But again, batting wise, I said it earlier that we're going to struggle to see where the runs are coming from here. Joe Root again has to take this England team on his back. Phil Salt is finding his feet in ODI cricket, but again, he's treating it like an extended T20, and that's going to work in 1 or 2 games, I think. But it's going to be quite difficult to sustain that over the tournament, and that could be okay in England's favour. But again, it completely depends if we come out of the blocks. England have started quite slowly in recent tournaments as well, and so that's a big potential problem. And then bowling-wise, they have been a little bit one-dimensional. They've kind of gone, we're going to pick the guys who bowl nearly 90 miles an hour. But unfortunately, if you can't get it right bowling at 90 miles an hour, the other international batters like to smash you to the boundary. Yeah. So, and the ball just goes a little bit quicker.
Or your subpar wicketkeeper will just let the ball go down the leg side for 4 wides.
So I think I think too much has to go right for England in this team. What the odds saying? I can imagine the bookies are kind of probably quite short odds, which is not justified.
I think England.
Okay.
They're at the Australia level. They're too short.
That is short. There's not value there.
No.
No, I don't think so. They're 5 or 6 to 1, and I think that's probably generous to England. If you were going to say one positive thing about them, like I think if you want to know like our thoughts about the ODI team, go back to the last podcast. We did about 25 minutes on it. Like they don't really seem to be set up to play this format. They don't seem to care about this format and their problems. If you want to be good at a format, what I will say though is there probably is a world where they could do something bonkers, and I think their ceiling. I think basically what I'm saying here is that their ceiling is really, really high. I think this team can beat every team in the tournament if things go their way. And there are teams where that frankly isn't the case. Like that ain't happening for Bangladesh. That ain't happening for Afghanistan. It probably isn't happening for New Zealand. It's not happening for Pakistan. Those teams can play the best they possibly can, and they're still probably falling short of India playing 8 out of 10 cricket. Like I think England do have another gear. I think they do have some extremely talented players, who could go off. I mean, who's talking about Phil Salt? Never not found his feet in ODI cricket. That's absolutely right. Treaty doesn't bat like you should bat in ODI cricket, but we've seen Phil Salt batter centuries in T20 cricket, and if he can, we know he can score 100 runs.
Big fan of Bristol.
Yeah,
big fan.
He's got 10 overs of power play. It's not inconceivable he does it
way longer.
Yeah, it's not inconceivable that Phil Salt does something absolutely bonkers. And that's a big problem if you're playing England. It was with Liam Livingstone again. Doesn't happen 9 out of 10 games, but when it happens, holy shit, it goes a fucking long way. I
suppose it goes back to what you said on some of the other podcasts, Jack, around who's going to bat the overs. So actually, Ben Duckett can't get to his famous 45 and then get out after 35, 40 balls. He has to be someone who's batting through the overs, and England's innings management needs to be better.
Yeah. I think if they wanted to be a good team consistently, but I do think this team could blag a semi-final and a final. I don't think it's very likely, but I do think their best is quite stunningly good if it does come together.
The problem is they have to get to a point where not their best is good enough to get to that situation, and it just
precisely
is it, and that's They might win a one-off game against Australia playing really well, but they'll lose against Afghanistan and go out.
That's precisely the England situation. Do you want to know what I had as a hat?
Yes.
It's a bald man in a sun visor. Like those golf things. It's not. Yeah. It's like the some of the ideas
That's
are right,
awkward.
but the fundamental thing that you need the hat to do if you want to protect your head from the sun, if you're a bald man, the sun visor isn't pulling off for you.
I'm now picturing when he takes the visor off after being in Pakistan, it's going to look exactly like a penis, isn't it? That's exactly what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Good imagery. Right, who wants to do a team next? You want to do Australia? We'll pair up England and Australia.
Let's do it. Let's go with us.
The old
Australia.
enemies.
Indeed. So Australia, they are the champions of the World Cup, the ODI World Cup. Lest we forget a fantastic 100 from Travis Head in that final that seemed like a tournament that was designed purely for an India win, not to be. So maybe Australia will turn up and be party poopers once again. They are captained by Stephen Peter Devereaux Smith in the absence of Cumdog, and coached by Andrew McDonald. Their kit is yellow and they've got green sleeves because it's an Australia kit. It's Australia. It's fine. But they are in a bit of a tricky situation. We've been through some of the teams who are missing big players. There are some big players missing out. There are some big players missing out for Australia. They don't have the aforementioned Cumdog. They don't have Josh Hazlewood. And they also don't have Mitchell Starc. Now, you might know those three as Australia's bowling attack. They also don't have Mitch Marsh, and they also don't have Marcus Stoinis after his surprise international retirement. On top of Cameron Green being injured for a while, you might know those players as Australia's all-rounders. So there's some issues there. They do, of course, still have people like Travis Head, Glenn Maxwell, Adam Zampa. So they're not exactly bad players to be relying on. And Adam Zampa in particular, I'm expecting to be pretty crucial as their wrist spinner extraordinaire. But I do wonder whether, the kind of thing you see with, the middle overs, so much of the danger of those middle overs is when teams need to score runs. And part of that is the unbelievable control with which the Australia pace attack normally bowls. Hazlewood and Cummins, just so difficult to get away, so relentlessly accurate. And I don't know if people like Sean Abbott and Ben Dwarshuis are going to be quite as good at doing that. And maybe that will allow teams to, just take a bit of time to, take Adam Zampa for 4 and over, not worry about losing any wickets, and just attack the paces a bit more. So it's going to be interesting to see how Australia deal with that. The other people who are going to be coming in to replace the big three, Spencer Johnson, who, in fairness, good bowler. He's, I guess, will be the kind of guy who'll probably take the Mitchell Starc role. And in fairness to him, I think he's probably one of the guys who is closest to his replacement in terms of his ability and what he can do. He's not as good as Mitchell Stark, but he's a good player and he's dangerous. And then you got Sean Abbott, Nathan Ellis, Ben Dwashus. So that is a big drop.
Not bad bowlers.
They're
bad.
not bad bowlers.
Yeah.
I mean, that is fair, Ross. Like, they're not bad bowlers, but they're not.
Yeah, I recognise they're not quite the tridents of Poseidon like Hazelwood, Stark, and Cummins are. I get that, but there's still some good talent there. Nathan Ellis is one of our favourite bowlers on the podcast in T20,
mainly
cricket.
T20.
So,
but yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. What do you make of it, Jack? How big? I mean, obviously it's a big loss not having those three, but how big a loss is it when you think about the guys who are going to come in and replace them?
I think it's probably the difference between them being red hot second favourites and them just being second favourites. I still think this is quite a good team, and I think we probably have to remember as well that like the three guys we're talking about, they're quite old now. They're probably not the bowlers that we remember, and there's a realistic possibility that those three don't play any question mark more matches for Australia as the three. Like they're old men in sporting terms here, obviously. So it might in a way not actually turn out to be that
sort
big
of
a deal.
blessing in disguise.
Yeah, I think I would rather, if I was Australia, have them and play them because I think they are that good. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying they're all old men, get rid of them, but I don't think that it's name recognition wise, it's a huge drop off. Actual here and now ability wise, I think it's probably a few percent, and that's enough. That is enough for sure to make the team not as good. But I don't think it torpedoes them. I think there are other teams that could lose their three seam bowlers and just be an absolute clown show. I think Australia, this actually, they actually might turn out to be really functional, and they kind of have a habit of doing that sort of thing, don't they? They've got an annoying stickability if you're an England cricket supporter. One good seamer walks out the door and like another 6'4" metronome bowler walks in, and mixes things up. So I don't know, Max. I think I like the team. I think odds wise, I mean, when I was looking at this, I think they would place at about 4-1, 5-1, so ahead of England and South Africa, and I think that's probably fair. I think they're probably the best team in the group. That could all change. Like after the first game, I wouldn't be surprised if there were like whatever happens in it. If people suddenly go, "Oh, there's no problem with Australia's bowling attack. They're great. Like this is they're an excellent team. They're definitely going to be in the final." Or if it goes the other way and one of them has a little bit of a wobble, everyone in Australia goes, "Oh fuck!" Like write the whole tournament off. Like it's we're never going to win.
They
so
can
I
be
think
quite English in that
jobs.
respect, can't they? With their assessment. Of
like I said, and I got a lot of hate for this on YouTube, and it was quite funny when I said this.
This is why we didn't let you do the Australia preview, of course.
They are prone, Australians, to having a very binary view of sporting affairs. Like it's either the best thing ever or the prime minister's on the TV saying they're shit and that they should be in prison. Like it's not. They don't exist. There's no scale. There's no grey scale. It's a golden generation or the worst generation ever situation in Australia permanently. Yeah, it's a hallmark of their fandom, and I like it. It's like England fans, they love to moan. India fans, super cringe. Sorry, I hate to say it. Pakistan, wildly over-optimistic. Bangladesh, fatalistic. West Indies fans, just kind of angry. Everyone's, New Zealanders.
Everyone's got a thing.
Extremely chilled out. Yeah, and everyone does have a stereotype as a kind of fandom, and Australia's is, wild reactions in positive or negative terms. Like I've never seen an Australian ever make a considered argument. There you go.
Well, anyway, let's move on after the reprise of Jack's Australia cultural takedown. You
We'll warm up for the
golden-
Ashes, Max.
You mentioned, oh, it's going to be good. You mentioned golden generations, and they do have Travis Head in there, who is a golden generation all in himself.
Yeah, he's quite good
alongside,
across all formats, really, isn't he? He's
Indeed. Yeah, he's certainly an unforgettable cricketer, as I think you'll find I said many years ago. They've also got some excitement. Jake Fraser-McGurk is in the side. They bottled putting him in the T20 side. He's in the 50-over squad for the World Cup. He had a fairly torrid start to the Big Bash and kind of pulled things back. Be interesting to see whether he gets much of a run. And obviously, they've got Steve Smith and they've got Marnus Labuschagne. They've got Glenn Maxwell. They've got players that, regardless of the bowling issues that they may or may not have, can win them games on their own anyway. They are still, like you say, a pretty good-looking side. And luckily for them, maybe the lack of those three will give South Africa a sniff in a game against them in the groups. But I think they'll probably still have too much for England, and they'll probably have too much for South Africa. And I think I would agree with you, Jack, that even with the injuries, they are the strongest side in the group. Slightly awkward with the hat. I will qualify this bit based after what you said about England's hat choice, because I went with the old golf visor for Australia, because I'd say normally there'd be a baseball cap, right? Really good in most situations, very functional, can be a stylistic choice, just a good all-round hat, always solid, always good. But they've lost quite a key part of their hat in this particular tournament. So they're left with just, the visor bit around the side. But fortunately for this Australia side, they're not bald. They do have hair.
Yes.
So
got mullet.
The visor may still be enough to see them through. So it's not all doom and gloom.
Maybe it's one of those ones that doesn't go all the way around, Max. Maybe it's just the one that the one at the halfway, the little clip-on one, almost.
Yeah.
They've got the mullet at the back to protect them.
Yeah.
And the mullet
it fits with the hairdos that you see, the Antipodean hairstyles. So there you go. There's Australia.
The mullet, in a way, is representative of the point I'm making about Australia, isn't it? Like, that is not a haircut that someone who exists on a great scale. Yeah, that's not a considered approach to your hair. Like, that is. I'm Australian, and I want everyone to know that I'm Australian. That's what you're doing with that. And look, I love it. Like, I think it's.
It's not enough that you live in Clapham. You need to make it extra clear.
I think it's an excellent approach to life, to live everything, to live every emotion to its fullest, and I think that's why Australia, considering its small population on a world scale, projects a culture out to the world that many people love and respect.
Should we have a break and give Jack a timeout and come back with the...
No, I'll talk. I can do another 10 minutes on the mullet, mate. Crocodile Dundee, should we do him? Where else we got?
He has one wine with lunch on a Sunday. Look at him go. I remember my first beer.
What's your favourite Australian cultural export, Ross?
Steve Smith. If we can bring it back to the cricket.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I've seen Steve Smith score so many runs against England. He haunts me in my nightmares. And I think him being captain of this team, he's always got a bit of a point to prove, and that is a dangerous proposition if Steve Smith is back in form, and he's hit a few centuries recently as well. So, yeah, this Australian lineup, batting wise, is super, super strong.
Can I say, I don't know if anyone's here, maybe Max, you mentioned it. They did play Sri Lanka twice, who aren't even.
I didn't mention it. Yeah, they did get battered by Sri Lanka.
Got bowled out for 107 in one game. Like, I think there are definitely some question marks we've probably not covered here, but I'm going to go with bilaterals don't matter for this Australia side, because I think they do generally walk the walk. Like, they're not like England, who never walk the walk.
Their trophy cabinet is full.
Australia are the team that are allowed to say, I don't care if we lose 2-0 to Sri Lanka, as long as we win the Champions Trophy. They can say that.
Exactly.
England cannot.
Absolutely. Look, let's take that break. We'll come back. We've got South Africa and Afghanistan to finish things off.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the final part of our Champions Trophy team preview episode. We've got 2 teams to go, South Africa and Afghanistan. We're going to start with the South Africans. Ross, I want to say you are going to talk us through South Africa.
Yep.
And can you
Shall I
do it in a South African accent?
I was going to say I knew that was coming. I can give it a good go. I'm not sure how much this is going to go well, but we can try and see. They are World Test Championship finalists after all, T20 World Cup runners-up, and they were the semi-finalists for the 50-over World Cup. And they've got a rejuvenated domestic setup with the success of the South Africa 20. The pedigree for them is that they've also won this tournament back in 1998. So there's a lot going for the Proteas here. Recently, they did lose the Tri-Series, but they had 6 uncapped fellas playing. So who really cares? Temba Bavuma is going to be the captain. And they've got a pretty good lineup, really. Ryan Ricketson and Zorbi are going to be battling out for opening up. Rassie van der Dussen, Markram, Klaassen and Miller make up a pretty formidable middle order. And then Vine Muller, Janssen, Maharaj, Rabada and Shamsi going to be a pretty formidable team. I'm going to stop doing that now because it's going quite...
I'll tell you, that was very good. Until we got to the names, I think you were passed. Yeah.
Well done.
So, thank you. But genuinely, this team is. I think that they are. I love South Africa. Like I've been to Newlands. I've been to South. It's amazing. The cricket. What has
You
happened?
might not be allowed back after that, but
yeah, maybe not. But this team.
They'll welcome him with open arms.
Yeah, this team has got a lot going for it, and that. Again, they are on a upward trajectory, which is more than can be said for some of the other teams. The fact that they can leave out someone like Tristan Stubbs is a pretty good thing. Like he's in the squads, but it's unlikely he's going to get a nod here. Norkia is out injured, and so is Kurtz, which is disappointing, as we both love the rockets that they put down. Corbin Bosch, who made his recent debut, is into the side. And then you've got Ngidi kind of filling up the other spots. So overall, gents, I think this team's good. I genuinely think this is a team who can play good ODI cricket, and they've got enough explosiveness that some of the other teams do not have in the batting department. But there's a lot resting on the shoulders of the Zors up Bavuma. So if they can get off to a good start and do it, then I think they've got enough batting to have a pretty 350 is not a difficult thing for these guys. So what are you thinking? You backing them? You backing them here?
I quite like the team. I think I was a big fan of South Africa at the World Cup last time. I don't think any of the reasons that I like South Africa at the World Cup have gone here. I think in limited overs cricket. Actually, to tell you what, in Test cricket, like all round, this is a very good generation of South African cricketers, and I think we possibly slightly underrate them because they don't play that much together. But yeah, you look at any T20 franchise league in the world, there'll be a bunch of South Africans starring in it. When they do get together, they typically play pretty good cricket. I know they finished 3rd in the 3-horse race in the Tri-Series, but they were really quite competitive.
Turn up until
they had 6 uncapped.
And they were competitive in those games. You know, you have that team, and you bring in Kikiso Rabada, and I think just making that change probably wins you at least that game against Pakistan, where they got
10 overs of Rabada is pretty formidable, right? That is. Yeah, and I think Janssen's done well as well. Sorry, Max.
Yeah, well, Janssen seems, he's getting better and better, and particularly with the bat as well. I mean, I'm thinking like, spin attack wise, you've got Maharaj and Shamsi, both quality players. They've got I like South Africa. Like Jack said, similar to the World Cup. Really, it's pretty much the same team apart from the cock not being there, which has left perhaps a little bit of a weakness at the top of the order. That's probably the one place where I would be a little bit down on South Africa. But aside from that, it's a solid looking team, and I like them.
Yeah, I think
What are their
they've
chances?
they've got plenty of overs as well. They've got a bit of flexibility, right? Markram actually quite a serviceable part-time off spinner in this lineup as well. And then with Maharaj and Shamsi, good to have a wrist spinner in there alongside the finger spinner. I think they are more likely to go through the group than England are with Australia. So I think this is a pretty well-rounded team, and yeah, I think it's going to. It will take a huge performance. That's the beauty of the Champions Trophy, right? There's no dead rubbers, right? In these, and so I think I think I like this team. I think they'll be going through. So yeah, maybe yeah, semi-finalists. Yeah.
Well, you've got to think if they go through second, which I think is probably what you're trying to say there, then they play India, and they're probably not better than India, especially having to change conditions halfway through. They're not like so bad that it's inconceivable they wouldn't beat India, but it's probably.
And if they won the toss, they'd be in a pretty good spot. Although they do have Shamsi, and Shamsi against India never goes well, does it?
That maybe there'll be a turnaround.
It's the redemption arc. That's the narrative of this tournament. The Tabraiz Shamsi India redemption arc.
To be fair, so I've just looked up their fixtures. They start off against Afghanistan, and they do sometimes start tournaments slowly, South Africa, and so that is a potential banana skin for them to negotiate. And then Australia second, England in the last match. So pretty much like that last game is pretty much a quarter final, probably the way in which it's going to be set up. So yeah, I genuinely really exciting team to watch. The fact that we get to see Markram potentially play a full 50 overs and get absolutely on one is going to be very exciting. So and I think playing in Pakistan as well, there's going to be some flat decks to go at. So yeah, I'm bullish on South Africa.
What kind of hat are they?
Well, they are a hat that some people thought had its day. They faded a little bit. The golden generation went, and it was a little bit they were out in the wilderness. But now it's coming back into the mainstream, and that's thanks to the likes of Beyonce, Chris Stapleton, Luke Combs, and the hit drama Yellowstone. South Africa, the cowboy hat. That is what they are. Like when it's worn right, South Africa could wear that atop. And yeah, they are the cowboy hat that is potentially riding to a Champions Trophy.
I would say overall as well, while we're doing national stereotypes, the cowboy hat, the manliest hat, and South Africa, the manliest team in world cricket.
Okay.
For their strengths and their weaknesses, you know.
Okay, fine. Max, do you agree or not? Not with Jack's point, with the hat choice.
Yeah, the hat's good. I'm not where I don't know exactly where Jack's going with particularly with the manliness of their weaknesses. Are you suggesting they don't talk about their feelings enough?
Yeah, like South Africa are a typical man, right? They bottle everything up, and then every now and then they explode, and it all goes wrong, and they just go back. So they don't deal with their problem. They don't deal with the problem. No, they just carry on just as they were. Go back to work on Monday morning, and they're pretty good. And then, we've blown another semi-final. We blew a final. We lost to the Netherlands, and it's just a cycle of problems.
A reminder of how unfair life is. Fine. Yeah. Max, a cowboy hat. You on board with that?
Yeah, on board.
Nice. Well, let's finish off then. Max, I believe, is it you?
It is. Afghanistan, last but not least. They are captained by Hashmatullah Shahidi. They're still coached by Jonathan Trott, so the option for shithousery is still there. And I know what you want to know. There's only two questions. There's two questions on your lips. Number one, is Mohammed Nabi still in the Afghanistan squad? And is Gulbuddin Naib's hamstring okay? And you'll be pleased to know the answer to both those questions is a resounding yes.
Is Nabi's playing again?
Oh, Mohammed Nabi.
He's like Yari Lippman. That's what he's like Yari Lippman. He's going to be one of those quiz questions when we're older. How many decades did he play? 5 decades he would have played across for Afghanistan.
Yeah. Who was the only man who was playing cricket at the first test of a hydrogen bomb and the last bomb that ended the human race? Mohammed Nabi. There's one big, I say big in the sense of it's a bit of a disappointment for cricket fans, injury-wise. one big absence, which will be Gazanfar, who can't make it. He's out for 4 months with a fractured vertebra. He's been replaced in the MI squad for the IPL by Majib, but he's still recovering from his own injury. So it's Nagyal Karoti who's coming into the Afghanistan squad to replace him. Whether he gets to play is very much doubtful. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame. He's the new spin sensation on the block for Afghanistan. Someone who would have been quite nice to see players trade. But sadly for Afghanistan, they're just going to have to make do with Rashid Khan and Noor Ahmed. What a shame. They're the key players with the ball alongside Fazal Haq Faruqi. We know all about what this Afghanistan side is like. Their T20 World Cup exploits last year, a blueprint for how they will probably approach the 50 over tournament, and would work pretty well with the 50 over tournament. They were built on a solid foundation up top with Gurbaz and Zadran, sort of not scoring particularly quickly, but being very competent and putting some runs on the board and making it very difficult for teams to score runs on pitches that were very difficult to score runs on. The pitches this time around probably won't be quite so hard to do that, but it's more akin to the 50 over game, that kind of approach. So there's a way of playing that Afghanistan have that will make them quite tricky to overcome, I suppose, for the sides that they're playing. But in reality, we do have to remember that batting lineup just doesn't have the firepower or the ability that other sides in the tournament have. And for them, the target has to just be winning a game in the group, and that'd be a success, right? You agree with that assessment? Winning a game in the group would be a pretty big success for this Afghanistan side.
I think they fancy their chances of doing better than that.
Yeah,
I think they think England
are definitely a team that they could beat.
Pretty bad. South Africa, they're a team that can wobble. Australia should have lost to Africa. They took the best innings in the history of cricket.
Probably one of the best
stop that happening.
Best things in sport I've seen in the last 20 years.
Yeah, like the Afghanistan have been super competitive with all these teams. I think that they're a lot closer to the top three in this group than very obviously much closer than Bangladesh. I think if you play this group out 100 times, I think they get through 20. Like, I think there's a really, really good chance that Bangladesh cause a mini upset by qualifying here. I don't think it really takes that much to go their way. Like, I think they are the worst team in the group, but like,
they can't beat any of those teams, don't they?
Yeah, they don't need a freakish event to beat any of them. They just need a couple of players to play quite well.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to some of their team management. Like we've seen in other tournaments where we're just like, look, your bowling's a real strength. Don't opt to bat first and only have like 200 on the board. Like, actually give yourself a chance to actually get in amongst it. So let's see how Jonathan Trott sets them up.
Comes into play. They're not playing in Dubai unless they get through and play India, so not such of an issue. I think I was having a look at some of the the stats of teams batting second winning at the Pakistani venues. It's pretty much dead 50-50, and there's like a stark difference in Dubai where it's like 55-45 in favor of the team batting second. So there's a clear bias there that they won't necessarily have. But it's still, Pakistan, we've seen in the PSL in particular, which sort of often happens around this time of the year. It's usually just before the IPL, isn't it? Where there has been a fairly heavy chasing bias. And that's the kind of thing that could play into Afghanistan's favour quite heavily with that makeup of the side. So, they are the weakest team in the group, but they definitely have the ability to beat any of the other teams on their day. Whether they'll be able to do it twice and make it through, I have my doubts, but they will be difficult.
The other thing to bear in mind, I think maybe a little bit different to the India World Cup. If you I do think Afghanistan are decent. In India, I think the ball was in the game a lot more than I think I expect it to be in Pakistan.
Yeah,
and I said it before the World Cup, and I will say it again. This team have two batters, and that's not enough batters to be good.
No, Jonathan Trott's been given criticism.
Bad. Like no, they're. I mean, like they're probably.
I don't know, maybe 2.5, maybe 3. Well, they've got 2 half batters in there somewhere. Like, Omazai, Ramat Shah, they're okay.
Mate, yeah, I'll give you half batters. Zadran and Gurbaz are better than anything that Bangladesh have got to put out, for example.
Yeah.
I think after that, Bangladesh, if you line them up against Afghanistan, win every single comparison, apart from maybe Rashid Khan down the order. Like, I think that's what we're talking about here. They do fall off a cliff significantly. Now, luckily for them, Zadran and Gurbaz are good. Like, they are really, really good in this format, especially. So... And
they do play like
there's only 3 matches.
You've got no one else below them.
Yeah. And there's only 3 matches. So you only need and this could definitely happen. You need one of them to get a century in one game, one of them to get a century in the other game, and they're probably favourites to win those matches. But I don't expect that to happen.
Yeah,
like, I expect
probably it's not implausible.
It won't. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Good roundup, gents. I think so. So yeah.
Well,
Group B.
Got the hat, obviously.
Yeah, Group B. We've got
not
Australia.
Hat.
We've not done
the hat.
Oh,
We've got to do the hat.
Sorry, Max.
Oh
Sorry,
my
Max.
god.
So Afghanistan as a hat. The thing for me here was that arguably you could say they shouldn't actually be in the tournament. What with the whole Taliban not letting women do sport or education or anything, and the ICC saying that you kind of have to have a women's team to be a full ICC member.
They don't say that, do they? Though, really.
Well, clearly not, because Afghanistan are here. So it's all nonsense.
If they did say that,
if they followed their own rules, then they might not be here. There's obviously talks of boycotts, and it makes it quite difficult to like Afghanistan. But that also is a bit annoying.
Whoa. I think that's an unfair statement. I don't think you could equate the Afghanistan cricket team with the Taliban.
Well, you haven't let me finish, have you?
Oh, right. Okay, fine.
Okay, because they're a fun side, and they've got a lot of skillful spinners. They've got good players, and obviously it's not their own fault, probably, for the most part. I don't know. I haven't spoken to every single one of them. I'm guessing they don't all support the, destruction of women's rights in Afghanistan. So it's not directly their fault, but it doesn't change the fact that it happens, and it leaves a sour taste in the mouth, to say the least. So it's kind of confliction. It's a confliction. Yes, it's to do with hats. So what they are, Jack, is they're a hat that you put it on and you sort of like it, but you feel dirty for doing so. And you're supposed to hate it. So they're a bucket hat. That's what they are. I put a bucket hat on once and I was like, this actually looks quite good, but it's a bucket hat. So I'm not allowed to like it. And that's Afghanistan.
Yeah. That is Afghanistan. So you made some sort of political statement related to a hat at the end there.
Yeah.
I'll back it. Well done, Max. Good summary.
Yeah, very good.
Good
so
summary.
Group B then.
So
Australia, South Africa. We're backing as 1 and 2 with England lucky almost in third.
Yeah.
And then Afghanistan pulling up in the back.
That's my theory. Yeah, we'll wrap up there. Tournament starts on Wednesday. We'll try and do a show. We should try and do a show on Wednesday after that game, and maybe throw out some predictions for fun stuff.
Sounds good. Thank you for listening. Go to patreon.com/cricket podcast. Sign up for all coverage of next tournament.
Bye.